Hello class, this is Les Miranda. This is my week 6 video discussion for PM693. The first question is to note what a contract breach is and how it is caused. A breach in contract occurs when a party fails to perform the obligations that are listed in a contract without a form of legal excuse. The contract spells out the obligations that are expected by both parties of the contract. And a breach would be that the obligations were not completed as stated in the contract. Reasons for a breach in the contract to happen can be bad planning, bad communication. There are many different reasons that why a breach could happen. The next question is note what damages and remedies are on contracts. There are several main types of damages that happen when a breach of contract happens. Compensatory damages, lost in time, money, property, or resources. This type covers most breaches that happen. Liquidated damages are oftentimes listed in the contract. It can be prepared for some type of damages, and they can be used to calculating damages that are hard to be calculated. Damages that are not, and they're damages that are not punishable. Nominal damages are small amount of damage and sometimes can be signified by wrongdoing. Punitive damages, which exceed simple compensations and awarded to punish the defendant. They rarely happen. They're used when harmful intentions. They sometimes happen when harmful intentions are used. I'm so sorry. And they used to make an example of the parties involved. Remedies to correct contract breaches for general damages are usually compensation by replacement or cash value of the loss. The obligations are corrected and goods are produced, or the goods or the products are reproduced, or restitution of the damages, or recession, a cancellation of the services or the project often happen. The next question is define a complex licensing agreement. A complex licensing agreement include a more complex type of agreement. Some of the components could be from you can have multiple companies involved in the licensing to make it more complex. It's important to clearly write out in the contract who owns what and what obligation does each company has, and to spell out who reserves the right and maintains the licensing. Different assets, if there's many different assets that need to be licensed, that can make the licensing agreement more complex. Reserved or shared licenses rights used by multiple companies, and taxing issues sometimes can make licensing being more complex. And sometimes issues with key employees can make the licensing agreement complex. There's different clauses in a complex licensing agreements that should be available. You should define important terms so everyone will have a clear understanding of the terms being used. And you should have a clear defined scope to define what's being licensed and how the rights are shared. And you should also list obligations, define the different involvements and obligations of everybody involved. The next question is discuss the various steps of the contract process from drafting the contract through negotiation and finally through the execution and closeout. Denote what occurs at each step of the process. There are 7 main steps to a contract. The first one is prepare the contract. You need to add your goals, needs, desires to the contract. The next step, number 2, is authoring the contract. Draft the contract, write all the information you need. Number 3 is negotiating, presenting and discussing the contract between parties involved. Number 4 is get approval if needed. Number 5 is execute the contract. Number 6 is keep up with any needed amendments. And number 7, manage contract with renewals or audits as needed. The next question is discuss the complexity in the contracting process and denote why organizations take the time to use contracts. Contracts need to be completed as they are written to ensure both parties are completing their obligations. The contract serves as a legal binding between each party and spells out what is expected. It's just a good way to have it in writing so you don't get any surprises. Thank you. Have a good night.